Hello and welcome to another episode of the new series. I am Pooja. Today we are going to discuss the demise of Jean-Luc Godard and as he passes away at the age of 91, what actually made him the man he was. So this topic is going to be of extreme significance from the perspective of art and culture and also from the perspective of essay writing. So let us begin with the various topics we are going to cover under this. So what about Jean-Luc Godard and about his journey, the new French wave, his influence on Indian cinema, if any, and pros and cons of cinematic culture, the legacy he leaves, and of course, in the middle of the segment, I am going to ask you a pre-based question. So let us begin about the very important director the world has lost, Jean-Luc Godard. He was born on December 3rd in 1930 in Paris, France, and he passed away on September 13, 2022 in Rouen, Switzerland. So he was a Swiss-French director. The French-Swiss film director who came to prominence with the New Wave group in France during the late 1950s and 60s spent his formative years on the Swiss side of Lake Geneva, where his father directed a clinic. Now his higher education consisted of study for a degree in ethnology at the University of Paris and a laboring job he used to do simultaneously, which inspired his first short film, which in English was Operation Concrete, Operation Beton. Now, his career began in 1950s and he began as a film critic. That means to analyze critically the films that were being directed back then. His association with the 𝐃𝐫𝐢𝐬𝐡𝐭𝐢 magazine and fellow critics led him to become a director. And the French-Swiss director once said that you can make a film with a girl and a gun. So he did that when he first debuted with the feature film in the 1960s, that was Breathless. Along with Truffaut, the 400 Blows he directed, Godard's Breathless set the unique tone for French cinema aesthetic. So a different kind of cinema France started to witness because he was more of a realistic person whenever it came to cinema. The thing is that his cinema can be divided into two categories. First were the unconventional ones and second ones were the political ones. So politics for him was the same as cinema. The film brought international acclaim to the newly invented French New Wave techniques. Other than that, Viva Savier, Le Petit Soldat, La Carabinieri, Hirot Le Fou and Week's End, these all were also directed by him. Godard switched to directing films filled with leftist anti-war politics through the 1970s, and that was done with Jean-Pierre Gorin. So they together made the film Tout va bien, and this was a French-Italian political drama film. So politics started getting mirrored in the cinema of Godard. Now, Italian movie Let's Have a Brainwash with Godard's scenes portraying a disturbing post-war apocalypse world also brought out the ills of the war. Moving ahead. Now, other than that, let's talk about The Little Soldier, which stirred controversy as the film was filled with reference to France's colonial war in Algeria. That is interesting because it was not allowed to be released until 1963, a year after the conflict actually ended. Now, after the 1980s, Godard came back to more traditional fictional films. So, the traditional way of life he started getting into his films in the 1980s. His filmmaking, although didn't change till the last year of his career, that was in 2018, and the most recent works include Goodbye to Language and The Image Book of 2018. This could be a prelims question, Moving ahead, now he broke away from the previous conventional sort of filmmaking and started putting the back then realism into the movies, seeking inspiration from the Italian neorealism in the late 1950s. An art film movement called La Nouvelle Vague or the French New Wave started ushering into France, and he is said to be one of the most prominent featuring icons he was an iconoclast, of course. So Jean-Luc Godard was one of the important figures in the New Wave cinema. Truffaut, Eric Rohmer, Jacques Rivet and Claude Chabrol, they all constituted the right bank of the New Wave. And the co-founder of the 𝐾𝐫𝐢𝐬𝐧𝐥𝐨𝐚𝐝, André Bazin, was also a prominent source of influence for the film movement. Now, the idea of the wave basically was on Archer theory. That means in which the director is like an author, narrative, and the camera is his pen. So basically whatever was expressed by the director, it was through the films, and the films were actually the director's pen. Okay, moving ahead now, if we talk about the wave, it was unconventional when it comes to the realities of life, such as violence, anti-war politics, exploration of the counterculture, and introduced new techniques in the filmmaking as well, which we see in the many films of India, specifically in the web series such as Mirzapur, what we see in Gangs of Wasseypur. So it was kind of that only. Moving ahead, let's talk about the influence on Indian cinema. Director Amartya Bhattacharya, who was promoting his film Adieu Godha, he came to know about his demise while promoting his film on Facebook. So he said that Godha was a high influence on the Indian cinema. Even he was honored with the Lifetime Achievement Award at the 25th edition of the International Film Festival of Kerala. And because COVID-19 pandemic was in its full swing, so what he did, he attended it virtually, but the acclaimed filmmaker Adur Gopalakrishnan had accepted the award in his stead. And Godar Pala Yatrakal, Many Journeys of Godha, which is a book on the late filmmaker by film critic G.P. Ramachandran, and it was published by the State Chalachitra Academy. So you can see that his accomplishments was of course agreed to by the Indian cinema, and then he got so many awards and recognition through Indian ways of life. Now, if we talk about the influence of good movies, what is a good movie? A good movie is something that is able to inspire us. Apart from entertaining us, it can entertain, educate, and inspire the viewers in many ways. They can create awareness on multiple aspects of life. It is impossible for a person to engage in various cultures that is available in the world. So if we watch the movies of different cultures, we can be aware. Not only that, other dark realities of life such as terrorism, violence, and maybe sex-related issues, these all can also be discussed through movies, and this can inspire us to be aware of things and be more empathetic. Every movie is set and developed in a particular culture, so they are mirroring the culture. And it can happen that movies are adapting from the culture and the culture might adapt from the movies. So this kind of give and take relationship society has with the movie. Movies teach us history. It is impossible for the coming generations to know about any historical figures only through books. So movies are a better way to make people understand about the history if they are factual and not biased in nature. Moving ahead, now let's talk about the cons. There is a lot of psychology research that has been done in which it is shown that a lot of people who have been subjected and exposed to violence happening in the movies, they tend to get desensitized because what they are watching sets the bar higher for more violence. So desensitization is also a problem. Sometimes it can happen that people choose the wrong characters from the movie to glorify. And this has been a case specifically with teenagers, which gives parenting challenges. They try to look cool by adapting to such behaviors which are actually glorified in the movie, although the directors might not want to glorify them, but the teenagers tend to rebel when it comes to such cases. So my question for today is very simple. With respect to prelims, you have to tell me which was the first ever movie to be directed in India and in which year. If you know the answer, comment about it in the comment segment and I will take the names of those who have answered my question in the next segment. The legacy stays wide. Now the films he made during the French New Wave has inspired many filmmakers such as Quentin Tarantino, who made cult movies such as Pulp Fiction, Reservoir Dogs, who took up the task initiated by Godard. And Martin Scorsese's Taxi Driver also portrays some glimpse of Godard's techniques of filming. Apart from that, Godard's films have won him several awards such as the Golden Lion, the Golden Bear, Honorary Academy Award and Honorary Caesar as well. So, I hope you understood everything that I tried to make you understand over here. Whenever such essays could come, you can cite the examples of Jean-Luc Godard when it comes to writing about the modern cinema and how his unconventional ways of filmmaking has been adopted by Indian filmmakers through many examples. So if any such question comes on for essay or GS as well and ethics as well, you can understand it from this perspective. So that's it for today. Tomorrow we shall meet again. Thank you so much for watching.